from not being able to pay a £500 salary to 6-figure agency within the year. Crazy. Cool. B2B Shower Thoughts. We're finally here.
Yeah. Who came up with this name?
I think, we thought about the name for a long time, but, we wanted this to be like a fun podcast, not like all the other B2B marketing that's super serious, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're still going to be a bit rough around the edges for now, but it's okay. We'll get there in the end.
Yeah. So B2B Shower Thoughts to everyone who's tuned into the first episode. This is just going to be an introduction into our podcast and, why we're launching this. And I think Jordan and I, working with so many B2B clients over the past 1 to 2 years, we've learned so many new things, and we just decided we don't want to do the whole traditional B2B marketing. We just want to add a bit of fun to it, right? Would you say?
I mean, there's lots of good B2B podcasts out there, but there's none from agencies giving their perspective of what they're doing in the industry. And we've done so much in the past 6 months, especially transitioning into B2B more heavily over the past year. So we have a lot to share, kind of just new strategies, our approach to how we're doing it for clients, traditional approaches that we've adapted to the new way of doing things.
Yeah.
Changing B2B buyer behaviors, advertising strategies, content strategies, all that kind of stuff. But we want to keep it like really lighthearted, so it's more raw
and authentic.
And authentic. Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about being authentic in B2B, but not many people are actually authentic. So yeah, we wanted to keep it super authentic, share our experiences, and I'm excited to get started.
Yeah, just a friendly conversation between founders.
Yeah, we also want to get guests on as well, like new guests. So just people that also work in the industry, other agency owners, B2B marketers, people that have a similar approach to us, and also people that have a slightly different approach to us as well.
Yeah, and I think we've already spoken to a few people on LinkedIn who are keen to join the podcast at a
I messaged a few people like 6 months ago to ask if they want to come on, and they keep messaging me asking when they can come onto it. So
well, it's happening now.
We're finally here.
Yeah.
We are finally here. Yeah.
I think before we dive a little bit deeper into Nude, our agency, it's relevant to talk a bit about our backgrounds. So you were working in B2B before we started Nude.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just start from where we initially started. So I studied marketing at university, learned a lot, but didn't actually have any experience to be able to implement marketing. It was B2C and B2B. It covered all sectors of marketing, really.
Yeah.
So, from that, I finished university. I went on to, while I was at university, I was working at the BJ, which is like British Judo Association.
Cool.
Working in the membership department. So it covered everything from like sales and marketing. So I learned a lot from that. And then when I finished university, I really struggled to kind of get a job. Marketing, you need experience at university.
Yeah.
To get a job, you need experience. But I just didn't have that experience. So I was interviewing at multiple companies, interviewed at Diageo, interviewed at a couple of events companies. Ultimately didn't really make the cut, which was a bit annoying. That's the reality
Similar
of like
stories here.
leaving university without much experience. And so then I went on to work for an agency in contract roles. So I worked with Tesla, Coca-Cola,
That's cool.
And JBL. And then I finally got a job in the industry I wanted to work in the role I wanted to work in, which was as a marketing executive for Informa, which is the largest B2B events company in the world. So that was a whirlwind. That was a lot to learn initially going into that business, because it was covering everything from outreach to content to websites. I had to learn WordPress to kind of add stuff onto their websites. I had to learn all the sales kind of side of stuff, how marketing and sales work together. Advertising, I launched advertising campaigns at this company on Facebook and LinkedIn. So that was a lot to learn. straight up. And also it just taught me how complex B2B was. It was a struggle, but I really, really enjoyed it. I had great people around me.
How long were you there for?
3 years.
3 years.
Just over 3
cool.
years, I think. Yeah. So a lot to learn in a very small space of time. But it really opened my eyes to B2B and the complexities of B2B, as well as just seeing kind of how difficult those buyer journeys really are in B2B. And we were advertising and trying to attract kind of like C-level to senior leadership at companies. And that is a whole nother ball game. Yeah,
true. Would you say the stuff that you learned at your previous role, in this role that you were talking about, would you say it's helping you a lot with the work that we're doing now?
Yes and no. I mean, it really opened my eyes to kind of just the industry and to buyers, but a lot has changed in the past couple years.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, that was 5 years ago now. We've been at the agency for 5 years. So during those 5 years, a lot has changed. The way you reach people has changed. Advertising has changed. We used to run basic lead gen campaigns for these courses that we were running at Informa alongside the big events. And it was so much easier. Things were cheaper. It was easier to kind of target people. People weren't as creative back then as they are now. So it was kind of easier to reach people through these campaigns. So yeah, a lot has changed. I learned a lot from that I'm applying into what we're doing now. But it was good to get the fundamentals. It was really good to have those fundamentals down.
Cool. Sounds good.
How about you? How did you? I mean, I already know, but I don't know why I'm asking
people
like
who
I don't
know. So I didn't actually study marketing. Was sort of like a major in my university. My degree was business and economics, which is why I handle all of our accounting.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, but I think after university, I wanted to stay in Austria. That's where I studied, but I couldn't find a job at the time. I was interviewing for loads of internships, and eventually one of my friends was working in London at an advertising agency. I applied there, got to the final round of interviews. But at the same time, I had applied for an internship at Procter & Gamble in Bucharest. And fast forward to the actual job, I ended up going to Procter & Gamble in Bucharest, where I did a 9 months internship. And I feel like that was like the best way I could have kicked off my marketing career. Because I mean, you know, a lot of people say now like, oh, I don't want to work in a corporation and like, I want to do my own thing and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like for me, for a first role, that was super important as an experience because I learned how to work in a team. I learned, you know, a lot about responsibility, a lot about budgeting. And a lot of that stuff that I learned there came in super handy later on when we launched our agency. So from there, I had a few different roles. So after that, I went to Saatchi & Saatchi in Bucharest. I worked there as like an account executive for about 3 or 4 months, I think. And only after that, I moved to London. And in London, I was doing a master's and I had a few random jobs, as you do. But I think another super interesting one that I had, and that was the job that I had before we launched Nude, was a marketing associate role in a luxury travel company, which was interesting, you know, because even though it was B2C, it was super long sales cycles. Yeah. Which is relevant to what we do today, right? And that was a role where I learned so much about marketing. I'm talking design, as you said, like WordPress. I was doing a lot of stuff in WordPress to like kind of save money for the business. The designer taught me all things Adobe, like InDesign, Photoshop, and all of that. Premiere Pro, I learned how to edit videos like a pro. Facebook ads as well. It's where I taught myself everything from like ad creation, structure, even tracking, you know, and that's when I kind of like got so obsessed with tracking and like the whole pixel game and everything. So that was
data queen.
Yeah, data queen. That was a huge role for me. And I'm always going to be grateful, you know, for my boss back then that gave me the opportunity and he was like pushing me to learn. And a lot of the stuff that I learned there, I applied later on in Nude.
Yeah, I still can't believe you worked at Saatchi & Saatchi.
It was called Saatchi & Saatchi and The Geek. So I think it was like a collaboration like a collaborative agency between Saatchi and a local agency, but still owned by Saatchi and Saatchi. Yeah, it was a really cool job. I really liked it. It was my first first experience in the agency world.
How is it different from Nude, do you think? I guess
Um,
in many ways.
well, they had a lot of. It was similar in many ways because it was a small team, like we are. But I guess we kind of, with Nude, we have a bit of a different structure where we're the strategist, and then we have a few other people helping us with implementation. Whereas at Saatchi, I think it was more the traditional agency structure where you have account management, you have design team, copywriting team, social media team. So the work was spread out between a lot of people.
Okay, so one client was spread out across.
Yeah, we all had to come together basically in a lot of meetings and stuff like that, which I don't like. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, fast forward 2019, I think.
Yeah, 2019.
Right?
Well, that's when we came up with the idea for
Yeah.
Nude, when we were in Bali.
Yeah. Do you remember what cafe we were in?
Yeah, Nude Cafe in Bali.
Yeah, shout out to Nude.
Please don't sue us.
No, but I think that was a eye-opening experience for us, and I'm never gonna. It was a long time ago, but I'm never going to forget this. The moment we sat down in that cafe, and for me at least, it was the first time I was seeing people in a cafe with laptops working remotely. You know? And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was scary to think. I don't know. It seems like it's a bit unstable. I don't know what situation they're in, but it kind of seemed to me at first like very unstable to be doing that, working remotely, working for yourself. Just the idea of it was scary, but it was also something that I really, really wanted as well. I love my job at Informa, but at the same time, I did want that freedom, and that's kind of what gave us the idea to start Nude in the first place. Was that I was already working for free outside of Informa for people, just on helping them with their marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Sometimes brand new businesses, sometimes people that had never run a business before, had no experience at all, but then some people also that had a lot more experience and they just wanted an outsider's opinion on what they're doing with their marketing. And that was everything from kind of their first ever ad campaign to email structures to newsletters to website design to document design. And again, that was mostly B2B businesses, sometimes B2C. But yeah, that when I was working for those businesses for free, which I probably shouldn't have been doing at the time, but I just
good experience.
I just really wanted to experience what other businesses had to offer.
Yeah,
because I was working on one product at Informa, and working with those companies, it really gave me an insight into, okay, we can actually help people. At first, I didn't really believe it, and I was confused. It was always through referrals that I was doing this free work. Like, hey, can you help this person out with this? And I'm like, yeah, no worries. Let's jump on a call and go through what you need help with. But yeah, that being able to help those people and see some kind of results, even though they weren't incredible at the start, that opened my eyes. And then that's when I suggested to you in Bali that, hey, let's try this. Do you think we could do this?
And I remember us sitting down and kind of going through our skill set, because obviously you had worked in B2B. That was your experience. And most of my experience was B2C. And I think at first it sounded like it wouldn't be a good idea, but eventually I think we realized that because we have such complementary skills, it was actually a great idea.
Yeah.
And then I think we kind of like 2019, that was June when that happened. And then for a whole year, we kind of worked on this idea of launching something of our own.
Yeah.
Right. Fast forward 2020.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother story. We were meant to leave our jobs in May of 2020.
I think May,
to go full time with the agency, no clients. We were just going out and hoping for the best. So we were meant to quit in May 2020. We had flights booked. We were going to go and stay in Bali and just put our heads down and work. And that was, I think, January 2012, before that, like December, we were already planning it. And then the pandemic hit. So that turned everything on its head.
Yeah. Changed everything.
I stayed at my job because I didn't want the insecurity of leaving my job and then also not having anything to rely on. So we stayed at our jobs for a while, and then just had the agency as an afterthought in the background. Like, okay, let's just put it on pause. Maybe it's not meant to be.
But I think it was actually meant to be.
Yeah,
I think everything that happened was a series of events that kind of led us to this point.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to remember how it happened now. It's so.
I think it was we were away in February, and that was kind of when things were starting to kick off with COVID. And when we got back, I was in a travel agency, which obviously that was the industry that struggled the most during the pandemic, and I was let go. And at first it seemed like the world was ending, it was a global pandemic. I lost my job.
Yeah.
We hadn't launched the agency. I was like, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah. And then I got the severance. I was offered the severance package at work. And I think that was just a sign that, okay, let's just go all in with that. So then we both left our jobs I think I left in October.
Yeah, September
2020. Then
I wasn't working anymore over the summer.
No.
And I think that was for me kind of like an opportunity to be like, okay, you still have your job. Let me try to like start putting stuff together for the agency so we can go all in. And then I think it was October 2020 when we finally like fully focused on the agency.
Yeah, and that was that was when we was in France, and we just launched the LinkedIn company page.
Oh yeah, I remember. That was so random.
It took us forever to launch this one page logo banner. We was overthinking it way too much.
Yeah,
and then a week later, which sounds completely unbelievable.
No one's going to believe this.
Some person messaged. I don't know if it was the company page. I think it was you.
Yeah, they messaged on my personal profile.
Somebody messaged you saying, hey, we need help with ads. Please, can you help us?
And it was so quick.
Yeah, and then we had the call, and they spoke about what they wanted. It was basically it was a finance company that wanted to advertise to...
Just lead generation. Right?
It was just lead generation, just lead gen ads on Facebook and Instagram. And I'd run Facebook and Instagram ads. You'd run Facebook and Instagram ads. We said, yeah, we can help. We're pretty sure that we can help with that. We could help with it. It's not like we didn't know what we were doing, but we wasn't 1,000,000% sure it was going to work. And the guy said, let's go. We put a price down. We had no idea how to price our services. We just went off of basic pricing, probably undercharged an incredible amount for that project. And then, we kicked off the week after that. And that was November, I think.
Yeah, I think in November, yeah. And I think it's crazy that to this day, we still don't know how they found us.
Did you ever ask?
No. I think it ended, like that contract ended quite abruptly. And then we never really had a conversation about
it was
how
like
they found us.
He left the company, but it was like 6 months after we started, we were running.
But they were getting really good results.
Yeah, incredible results. I mean, it was the pandemic and it was kind of like business funding. So it was a very, very crucial business to be in at that time. But those campaigns really kicked everything off, and we were like, okay, we can really, really do this.
Cool.
But we need to charge more.
Cool. Yeah. I think it was a good, I don't know, it just happened, but it was such a good first experience to have with the agency because we had just gone all in, like quit our jobs and just started to focus only on the agency, and then bam, 2 weeks later we get a client.
Yeah.
Like when does that ever happen? I don't know if it was luck or, whatever it was, it happened and it was really good. And then I think 2021 is when we went to Bali finally.
Yeah.
And I remember, we had got a few other like short-term projects, nothing too big, nothing too crazy. A few referrals, I think, from previous connections.
Yeah, but those ended.
Yeah, they were rather short-term.
I mean, it was the pandemic, so people just didn't have budget. And I remember we were working with a client that had also left my company that wanted help.
I remember.
We were working with them, and then they said, "Hey, we love the work, but we can't move forward anymore. We just don't have the budget. It's the industry we're in is just so affected by what's happening at the moment." And I remember sitting in a cafe and we had our salaries at £500 or something like that.
June or July 2021. We were paying ourselves £500 each.
Yeah.
That was our salary.
And then we couldn't pay those salaries.
Yeah, I think June or July it was, 2021. And I'm never going to forget this moment. We were literally sat in a cafe like, what are we going to do? We don't have any money in the company. Like, is this a mistake? And should we keep doing this? And then I think it was August when we finally signed our first big client, when pretty much everything changed for the business.
Yeah.
And we went from not being able to pay a £500 salary to 6-figure agency within the year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That was, it turned around really quickly. And then, we did a bit of all kinds of work, like B2C and B2B for a few years.
Yeah, it was a mix of both. I got B2B referral clients, and then you got a lot of B2C referral clients. And the thing is about the agency is most of the clients at the start came from referrals.
Yeah.
It's just the way that business is. You do a good job for someone, they refer you to someone else.
But I think still a lot of agencies now still get a lot of their clients from referrals. There's a lot of lead
Most
generation.
Most of the people I speak to, it's referrals.
Because when you do a good job, obviously people are going to recommend you.
Yeah, at the start for us. I mean, we expanded into other avenues to get clients, but those first clients was all from referrals pretty much. And then just random, that first client, random outreach.
And then I think we're 2025 now. 2024 at the start, I think we started to make that huge shift towards B2B.
No, it was like 2023. Towards the end of 2023 is when we got more B2B clients coming to us. And that was the shift where we basically said, okay, look, we're helping these B2C clients. We're doing a good job. But the issue is that a lot of these B2C clients, once you do especially early stage businesses, once you do a really good job for them, they'll always build their own internal teams, which is fair enough. Like I would do the same. If I was a B2C business, a new B2C business, needed to start running some sort of marketing activity, whether that's content, ads, SEO, whatever, once you build that up to a certain stage with an agency, you want full control in-house, which is fair enough. Like it is what it is. And so we were losing some clients to them building internal teams.
I remember that.
It was also difficult because you're in a price war against other agencies with B2C as well. And what we realized is that B2B businesses needed the help that we had to offer. And we're also struggling a lot in comparison to a lot of B2C businesses when you were thinking about marketing activity. So I think that's the big shift.
That was the big shift. And I think also the work that we were doing with some of our B2B clients and kind of like epiphanies that we had with them, just some new challenges that we were facing with the B2B clients that we had, and the new stuff that we were trying and we were testing and ended up being successful. I think that was also kind of like a sign for us as, we could be doing something really cool.
Yeah, I mean, what was the shift that the one SaaS client that we've had now for 3 years?
I think,
Since 2022.
Years. Yeah.
When we implemented the B2C stuff for them, especially the ads side of things, that's when we were like, okay, maybe this can work for B2B. And it did work for them. So that was the shift. We're like, okay, if this can work, what else can we take from B2C that could work in B2B? But not just copy and pasting from B2B. It's taking what works in B2C and then adapting it to what that B2B business does. And that's what really kickstarted that journey of like, okay, let's do this for B2B. They need our help. there's a lot of like old tactics that still are really, really effective, but they're not as effective as adapting them or using tactics that other people just don't use, especially from B2B, just taking that B2C element and applying it to B2B. And it doesn't work for everyone. But the people it can work for, it's really, really effective.
And it's been fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. I enjoy working with B2B businesses more so than B2C businesses.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more fun when you go into a B2B business and you say to them like, look, we'll continue doing, you know, the traditional stuff, everything that you've been doing, but let's test this.
Yeah.
And when you test it and you see it works and it's successful, I think it also gets people in the business excited.
Yeah.
And they want to test more and they want to try out more fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and I think also this was the big reason why we wanted to start this podcast, right?
Yeah.
To tell people about the cool stuff that we've been doing in B2B, and then later on bring on people that are also doing cool stuff in B2B.
Yeah, this is just an introductory episode, but we'll dive in the next episodes to everything from kind of what we've done for a specific client that's really, really worked in terms of like advertising to like new content approaches, stuff that even we've tested that hasn't worked. I feel like that would be really useful for people
and
to,
really important,
to understand is that not everything we do actually works. And then having those guests on is really going to help. But we want to keep it like lighthearted. We don't want to be like super. I know I come across as serious, but I'm not very serious at all.
You're actually very funny.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah,
thanks for that.
Times,
Biggest fan. But yeah, I'm super excited to kick this off. I hope it's not super boring. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the next episodes because we're actually going to start talking about, you know, our epiphanies in B2B marketing, the new stuff we tried that worked and that didn't work. And to people watching, if you have also had any crazy random shower thoughts about marketing, of course, drop us a comment below. And yeah, let's get into it.
Cool.
I'm excited for the next episode. Yeah, see you soon.